Great afternoon, DWI community. Welcome, welcome, welcome to your Monday Lunch and Learn. Great to see you today. Hope that you had a wonderful, wonderful weekend, that it was relaxing, restorative, you got some rest and some, time to kind of plan out your week. So I'll give people a moment to join the broadcast before I get started, because today we're going to be talking about don't stuff your feelings, do this instead. So I'm going to take a moment to quickly tag a few people to see if I can get some people live. I did not give you guys a notification that I'd be coming on, so let me tag a few people. So anyway, hope you guys are doing well. For those of you who don't know me and are watching for the very first time, I'm Andrea M. Stuckey, the Divorce Liberator and your favorite divorce coach. I'm here to talk to you today about don't stuff your feelings, do this instead. Don't stuff your feelings, do this instead. So let's go ahead and get started. I won't be before you long. Hang on a second. I won't be before you long, but I wanted to come and chat with you a little today, talk to you a little today about your feelings, because, as a two-time divorcee, like many of you in this community going through a divorce or have been through a divorce, divorce can breed a lot of negative feelings. And so I want to talk to you today about how not to stuff those feelings. And this is a season, especially being kind of cooped up inside, where you can begin to rehash old feelings, rehash old thoughts, rehash old behaviors. You can tend to sort of go back into familiar patterns, right, in times of stress. And so I want to talk to you today about those feelings and how to handle them and manage them in this time and in this season. So if you're live on the broadcast, make sure you come in, thumbs up, heart it up. That lets me know that you're there and watching. Comment in the comment section. Let me see if I can also take a quick peek on my iPad and notice, because I can't see anything. I can't see who's joining on my iPhone. So really quickly, just let me get a moment, please, and we'll see if I can pull up something. So if you're there, say hey, let me know that you're here. Type a comment, a thumbs up, or some hearts. I see that there are some people live on the broadcast, so come on in. Hey Angie, great to see you, great to see you. Okay, perfect. So let's go ahead and get started. So listen, one of the things that, a great day to you as well, we're dealing with divorce. As I said, especially in stressful times, it's easy to feel, anger, feelings of anger. Let me just stop right there for a moment. When you're going through a divorce, you're going to feel anger anyway. And when you're going through stressful times, it can magnify that anger, right? Hey, Devette, great to see you. Thank you so much. Right? It can, an additional stressful situation can magnify that anger, right? You can also feel resentment. You can also feel bitterness. You may also be feeling depression, right? And whenever I talk about depression, I like to be very, very clear. I'm not talking about clinical chronic depression. I'm talking about situational depression. And that is depression that comes during times of stress or specific situations, right? So let's look at our country as a whole today. Many of us are exhibiting types of depression or anxiety based on the situation, based on the pandemic, based on social distancing, right? Hey, Jasmine, great to see you. Right? So it's similar when we talk about situational depression as a divorced woman, right? Or going through a divorce, because due to the situation, it can cause feelings of depression. So chronic depression is very different than situational depression. I don't speak on chronic depression. That has to do with chemical imbalances and medications and those type of things, right? But it is common to feel these feelings, Right? And so, but I want to talk to you today because it's so important. I want to analyze those feelings and I want to tell you what you can do to put yourself in a better mental space, a better physical space, and a better emotional space as you're moving through this challenge and change of divorce and these challenging times that we're facing today during the pandemic, right? So the first thing is that anger is an honest emotion, right? It's a healthy emotion. God gave us this emotion. Right? It is when we don't express it that can be the challenge. Now, let's stop right there. Oftentimes, depending on your background, depending on the family that you grew up, you may not have been at liberty to express your anger or express your emotions. And sometimes we bring that into adulthood, right? And so we don't express our emotions or our anger, since we're talking specifically about anger, in any way. So what happens when we don't express it? Where does that anger go? We can use that anger in a positive manner, or we can use that anger in a negative manner, right? And so oftentimes, if we do not release the anger, it turns up somewhere else in our body, and that is how we process it, right? It's going to show up somewhere, right? And so sometimes it shows up in our own physical body, that it can take residence because it has not been released. So I want you to understand how important it is to release anger. I'm going to give you some tips about how to do that in a little bit, but we've got to release it. And so regardless of what we've learned, right, especially as women, coming up, for those of you who are like over 40 or over 50, it wasn't popular back in the 70s and 80s to express your feelings or be very forward, right? And so we learned, unfortunately, we may have learned to repress that. And so what happens is when we don't express it, it takes up residence in our physical body, which when we don't release anger, it can turn into resentment, right? So what is resentment? Resentment is just anger stuffed down. And for those of you who are in the Divorce Destiny Academy, or you've been in any of my coaching programs, well, not all of my coaching programs, but if you've definitely worked with me one-on-one, I talk about fake forgiveness, right? There were a lot of times we can say we have forgiven, but we're still angry and we have buried that inside. We have stuffed it away, even though our verbiage is saying we've forgiven, but we still have anger that we have not released, right? So anger unreleased or stuffed down turns into resentment, right? Let's look at some of the comments here. Angie says she has definitely felt some of the above. Jasmine said, this is definitely me. I'm having a TMJ flip right now due to stress and frustration. Yes. And so, Jasmine, we have to learn how to release our anger, release this resentment, right? And so next we're going to go on the spectrum, right? This is kind of hierarchical, if that makes sense. Anger, resentment, and then when we don't release the resentment, it turns into bitterness. So it's almost like it goes deeper, right? And as the Bible tells us, we can have a root of bitterness. So now what happens is we're living in an angry state. We're living with our emotions on our sleeve. We're living in a position where everything is offensive. We're always defending ourselves, right? And this is how anger begins to go deeper and deeper within us when we don't release it. And so from the anger to the resentment to the bitterness, right? That bitterness is like a root, and it's much more difficult to pull out because it has been planted there for so long, right? And so this is a process that I would hope that, especially if you have worked with me in any of my group coaching, any of my one-on-one, or any of the Divorce Destiny Academy, where we learn how to quickly release, right? To live a life of releasing anger. So that regardless what it has to do with, whether it's a divorce, whether it's on the job, whether it's with your children, right? To feel the emotion, very important, but how to release that. Because it's when we do not release it, it turns into resentment, right? We stuff it down, and then it goes in deeper into bitterness. And that is when we start to manifest, or we start to have that personality or position of negativity. Have you ever met someone like that? That they just got that little thing with them, right? You know, they might be a nice person, but they got that edge. They've got that little sarcasm, that, you know, that cynicism that's in, and it's probably something they've been carrying around for quite a long time, right? And I don't want that to be you on today. Right, so we talk about the bitterness that can turn into a root, and then there's the depression that we talk about, the situational depression, and that is anger that's turned inward. Right, so think about, now it's gone down, or perhaps maybe it hasn't necessarily gone down, but we turn it on ourselves. Right, and so sometimes with depression, especially in the space of divorce, we don't feel that we have the right to be angry for a particular situation. And that's when we turn it in on ourselves. Does that make sense? Are you guys following me? Right? We turn it in on ourselves. Well, maybe I shouldn't have made that decision. Maybe I should be thankful for X, Y, and Z. Right? And so we kind of, you know, talk ourselves out of the anger when we really should be feeling it. And we kind of shift it around and turn it on ourselves. Does that make sense? Right? And so this can linger around when you don't feel that you have the right to be angry. And you have a right to feel your feelings. Right? Feeling your feelings is so vital and so important. That's why God gave us our emotions. Right? They have a healthy place. It's what we do with them. Right? So we are at liberty to feel them. It's what we do or don't do with them that can be a good thing or a negative thing. Right? A good thing or a negative thing. So feelings are thoughts in action. Now, this is something that those of you who are watching by replay or are interested in the Rebuilding the Inner Me group coaching program, this is what we focus on a lot. Learning how to shift those thoughts into how those thoughts affect, your emotions, and how to transition that into the proper actions that you need in your life. Right? Because feelings are thoughts in action. Everything starts with a thought, which turns into an emotion, which then turns into an action. And you have to learn how to manage that. And so what has happened generally for all of us, when you've been in relationships for an extended period of time, you create patterns. You create patterns of communication. You create patterns of how you manage your emotions. And it's really a survival technique. Right? Even as a little kid in a dysfunctional home, we learn how to use our emotions or these particular patterns to sort of save ourselves, to be honest with you, right? To cope. But the reality is now when you're not in these situations, we've got to clear out those old funky patterns, it's like I want to call them, right? Because they don't serve us anymore. We are free, or we desire to be free. And so those patterns have to be dismantled. Right? They have to be identified and they have to be dismantled. Right? So we're talking today about don't stuff your feelings. Do this, I'm going to tell you what, instead. Right? Feelings are thoughts and actions. So feelings must be released. So let's talk about some ways that you can release these emotions. Now, I want you to put to be open, because a lot of it may seem silly, but here's the reality. If you haven't done it, then any of these, then you may still be carrying around some anger, right? So the first thing is, I don't have them in any specific order. You can actually just get angry, right? You can scream in a pillow. If you're home alone, go in your bedroom, listen, cry your little heart out, yell if you want to. You've got to get those emotions out. Let me share something with you guys. And I don't know if I shared it before, but nevertheless, my dad passed away back in 1994. Do you know that I did not release those emotions? I did not grieve for my dad until I was in therapy. I started therapy in maybe 2009. I had unreleased emotions for over a decade because I kept just going about life, not really addressing my issues, not really addressing my feelings, just going about life, right? As a coping mechanism that we learn as kids, especially if you've come from a dysfunctional family, which I did, right? But because I did not release those emotions that were manifesting in different areas of my life, i.e. my relationships and my marriages, even in my parenting, to be honest with you. right? So it's so important that we release them. So you can scream in a pillow, scream in a pillow. You can hit a pillow, right? You can drive or go sit somewhere in your car, roll the windows up and get it out. Now, maybe you're not a screamer. We're going to talk about some other things like that. But some people may feel that they just have to release in that way, but they don't have a safe space to do it. I believe I remember hearing or reading somewhere, and it's been a while, but I believe somewhere in this country, you can Google it, I'm sure it exists because I read it somewhere. Someone opened up like a padded gym for people just to go and express themselves, to hit things, to throw things, to release things, right? To release their emotions. Now, we want to be safe. We don't want to hurt ourselves or anybody else, right? That's not really my expression, but you can definitely do that if you feel the need. It has to be, those emotions have to be released. Number 3, you can always, this is the one that has worked for me. It may or may not work for you, but you can exercise, run, release, go to the gym, play your favorite sport. Do you like tennis? Do you like, I don't know, golf? I don't play golf, but whatever that is, you've got to get that energy out. You have to release those emotions. You have to release that anger, because if you don't release it, darling, it's going somewhere. And if you don't let it out, it's going to go inward. And many of you right now who are watching live or by replay, you may be holding in something that you've been holding in for decades. I have been there. And it's going to manifest. It's got to go somewhere, right? And a lot of times it can show up in our bodies as illnesses, as weaknesses, right? As tumors, as cysts, right? Or it can show up outwardly in our relationships, on the job, right? Absolutely, right? Whatever you must do to release it. And the 4th one is you can write it. This is a popular one that I use too. You can write your feelings out. Journaling, write your offender, the person that you're mad at, a parent, your ex-husband, your ex, well, not ex-wife, because this is women here, but you know, your ex, whatever, whoever has hurt you, you can write a letter. You can write all the nasty things that you want to say, every emotion that you have in that letter, and then you can throw it away, or you can burn it, or you can keep it, put it away, whatever you want to do, right? One of the things that I did was I drew. I had sort of like an art journal where I just let my imagination go, right? And so I would take a word. I wish I should have brought it in my office before I started this live stream so I could actually show you. I still have it. Maybe I'll post a picture later. But I would write my emotion and I would just draw around it. But it was definitely a way to release my emotions. You've got to release them on today. You've got to release the anger. Don't stuff those feelings. You have to do something physical to release those charged up emotions. It is vital. And many of us are feeling a mirage of negative emotions in this season, right? Not only in the divorce space, maybe this is your big first life challenge without a significant other, right? In terms of your children being home, in terms of your job changes, working from home, or loss of employment, whatever that may be. This may be your first major shift and change that you're dealing with by yourself, right? You may have been divorced for 3, 4, 5, 6 years, but maybe you never had a situation like this, right? And so you're feeling a mirage of emotions. You've got to release them. You've got to release them. So what are you, or why are you holding on to anger? That's the main one I want to focus on today, because that's the most popular. Anger, resentment, bitterness that can turn into depression. Why? Why are you holding on to it? What are you angry about? And who are you really angry with? Because a lot of times what can happen, you guys, is that we're angry from something that happened in our childhood. We're angry from the very first boyfriend that we ever had. We're angry at a parent. We're angry at a teacher who spoke negativity in our lives. And we've been carrying those things, that negative messaging in our lives for decades. But it's time to release it on today. You want to release these emotions. You've got to feel them, number one, and you've got to release them. Because you can't be healed until you release them. Until you release those negative emotions. You've got to feel them Release them or deal with them so that you can heal. Very, very important. So why are you holding on to the anger? A lot of times when we hold on to anger, another way that it can manifest is in addictions. So let's be real here, right? When we think about addictions, we automatically think of drug addiction and alcoholism, and they are addictions. But overspending is an addiction. Overeating is an addiction, right? Listen, you can be addicted to illnesses, right? AKA the hypochondriac. There's always something wrong. There's always some pain. I've got this sickness. I've got that illness. Here comes this. And we're inviting and attracting that negativity in our life because we haven't dealt with that underlying emotion. Addictions can manifest in a lot of ways in relationships, right? When you haven't dealt with that angry messaging, then you will take that anger into your relationships, right? Where you don't feel deserving, where you don't feel worthy. You know, maybe you didn't have great relationships with your family members growing up, and maybe deep down, you're angry about it. Maybe deep down, you don't feel that you're worthy. And so every time you meet a positive experience or relationship, not only romantic relationships here, I want you guys to listen to me. This can happen in friendships too, that you create an environment, right, that sabotages that relationship, that friendship, that job, that romantic relationship, right? That is a subconscious addictive behavior where you sabotage every good thing that's trying to come your way because you're carrying some unreleased emotions. You've got to deal with them on today. You've got to deal with them on today. Listen, we are in a quieting season, probably where we had more downtime, right? We don't know how long we're going to have this. Take time to look in the mirror. Number one, tell yourself how special you are. Tell yourself how much you love yourself. I said, look in the mirror. Look in the mirror today and tell yourself, I love you, Andrea. I love you. And I don't want to hold on to these negative emotions. I want to release them on today. I'm ready to be free. Are you ready to be free? If you're watching this live or by replay, type in the comment section, I'm ready to be free. Because once you become free, then you can be clear, right? Then you get a better understanding of what's next. But when we're carrying that extra load, when we're carrying that emotional baggage, it is very difficult to get clear, right? We can move forward, right? Because by nature as women, we know how to do the things outwardly that we need to do, but it's the internal that can suffer. And it can suffer for decades if we don't release those emotions, right? So I talked about those addictions, how they can also manifest in addictions. Drugs, alcohol, overspending, overeating, addiction to rejection, sabotaging relationships. They're all types of addictions. Right? But when we deal with the internal, we can begin to release those things. So I want you to think about that on today. So what you can feel, you can heal. What you can feel, you can heal. And so the key is feeling those emotions. Don't stuff those feelings. I want you to feel them on today. Right? I want you to take a look at them sort of under a microscope on today. Go back and re-listen to this broadcast. Right? I want you to release them. Use whatever way is necessary for you that you feel comfortable. Sometimes you just feel so bottled up that you do want to scream. Right? But you want it to be healthy. You don't want to scream at somebody who doesn't deserve it, your children or at your job. Right? You need a safe space to do that, whether it's driving in your car, you know, when you're by yourself, where you can go out maybe to a park or you're at home alone and you just want to kind of scream and punch some pillows and kick some things or whatever you want to do. Figure it out for yourself. We all have different personalities. We're all comfortable with different things, right? But you've got to release that. you've got to release it on today. And I want that for you, right? Because then you can position yourself to really begin to move forward, right? This is your time. This is your season. Regardless of what has happened to you, all that matters is what's going to happen. Your life is not over. I know it may feel like it. I know many of you are in different seasons and stages of your divorce journey, right? But your life's not over. Just understand, give yourself grace, give yourself time, give yourself space, but there's so much more life for you to live. You're going to get through this. You can live, right? And when I say live, I mean live to the fullest, right? And you can love freely again, without the hangups, without the distrust, without the insecurity. You can do that. You can have a happy relationship. You can. But it takes work. It takes commitment, and it takes being intentional every single day. And you've got to start somewhere. You can't do it all at one time, right? You've got to take an overall look at what you need right now, and then you begin to work on it step by step, piece by piece, right? And so if you need help with that, of course, I'm here for you. Schedule a consultation, bit.ly/divorce liberator, right? If you're interested right now, the Rebuilding the Inner Me group coaching program, the early bird registration has begun. It is 50% off. bit.ly/Rebuilding the Inner Me, I believe, is the link. If not, I will go back and edit and I'll post it in the top here. Right? That's going to start in May. May 4th for the 4 weeks in May. What a great way to meet other women, right? To build your self-esteem, to shift your thought pattern, right? To learn how to create some boundaries in your life, right? To learn how to release these emotions that are holding you back. This is the time and season for you. Right, so 4 weeks in May, the class will begin. The early bird registration will end on midnight Thursday, the 24th. So it'll technically be midnight. It'll be the 24th, right? But right now it is 50% off, right? If you need a payment plan, send me an email, Andrea@divorcedwomenunite.com. We're here to serve you. My team and I are here to serve you so that you can get the help that you need, so that you can move forward. Divorce is trauma. It is a major life trauma. And unfortunately, what happens in society today, people overlook it because half of the marriages end in divorce. But nevertheless, it doesn't mean that there aren't a bunch of hurting people walking around here for decades. Angry, bitter, hurt, and not healed. Don't let that be you. Because listen, everything comes from you. So when you're healed and you feel good about yourself, everything around you will shift and change. Just like that. Everything around you will change. But it starts on the inner. And especially for those of you who've been involved in any type of abuse, and I've been there, emotional, verbal, physical. This right here has to be shifted. And it takes time to learn those patterns, how to learn how to stand up for yourself, speak up for yourself, learn how to ask for help when you need it. These are things you have to learn because we've created those patterns for decades. If you were in a long-term relationship that had any type of abuse in it, you've been doing that for so long. That's your natural go-to. That's your familiar pattern. Right? And so you have to learn how to shift that. And that's one of the things that we do in the Rebuilding the Inner Me program, or whether you work with me one-on-one. If you feel that you have a special need, we can work one-on-one together. Whatever it is that you need, I've got something that can help you. Right? Whether it's a program, coaching, or as I said, the group coaching is great. Many great relationships have been created in my group coaching programs, right? Because you're with women who understand what you're going through, and you're working together and forming a special bond. It's just like as a business owner, right? A lot of my colleagues, my friends or super friends, they own their businesses, right? Because there's a special space as an entrepreneur that other people may not understand, or they may not understand what coaching involves. They may not understand the things that are necessary in this online space, right? Does that make sense? So I hope that something I've said to you today has been helpful and pivotal, right? Make sure that you share, invite a community friend. If you don't see them on the broadcast, you can share it out right here in the community as well. But it's very important that you don't stuff your feelings, but you release them. You learn how to release them so that you can be free to heal and to grow and walk into this next season of your life. This little challenge and season that we're going in right now, it's going to be over, right? Position yourself to be ready to walk out and head down the new journey for your life, because the reality is you are responsible for your life, 100% responsible. And you, ma'am, are your number one asset. Never forget that. Your first responsibility is to yourself. Everything else flows out from you. So when you're not well internally, all this outer means nothing. But when you're not well internally, it will show out in everything that you do. Okay? Anybody have any questions, comments, or concerns for me? Thank you so much for showing up live. I appreciate you. Thank you, Angela, for subscribing. I appreciate that very, very much. I want you guys to stay encouraged, stay engaged here in the community. We've got some great things coming up. I'm just so excited about this season. You know, I believe in pulling the positive out of every negative situation, whether it's divorce, pandemic, job loss, whatever, right? You got to find that one little thing that you can be grateful for, right? And pull and suck the positivity out of it. And you can do it the same way, right? So have a wonderful and blessed day. Stay encouraged. Listen, even though you're in the community here at Divorced Women Unite, make sure you're following me. I am on all platforms of social media. So make sure you're following me on Instagram at divorce_coach7. Make sure you're following me over at Twitter at divorce_coach7. Make sure you're following me over on Periscope at divorce_coach7. And if you have not liked my business page, go to Divorcee Liberation right here on Facebook and like that page and follow as well. And don't forget, I have a YouTube channel, Life After Divorce. I don't know. You have to look it up. Just search me because I don't know that actual link, right? But nevertheless, have a wonderful and blessed day. Make sure you leave some comments in the comment section. Any questions that you have, even if you're watching by replay, I'll come back and answer them for you. I love each and every one of you. Stay encouraged. Keep your head up today. And remember, as I always tell you, no matter what the situation or the circumstance is that you're facing on today, God is always with you. He will never leave you nor forsake you. Stay and be encouraged, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.